So good morning everyone, my name is Lalit Soni and you are watching Drishti IAS. In this live session, we will be talking about the Indian Express newspaper and we will try to understand the important articles. When we talk about reading the newspaper, it is important for us to not just know the news but to understand what is behind the scenes as well. Okay, so considering that, we will be talking in details of whatever article we have chosen for the day. Articles are COP29 and overview. So basically there is this conference of parties which is basically happening right now, okay, and it will continue until 22nd of November. So we will be keeping a tab on that, but right now we will be taking an overview what is COP, okay, and what is UNFCCC, what are the targets and what has happened in the past conference of parties, etc. So we will be talking about that, okay. Then there will be inflation situation in India. So here we will be trying to understand that the retail inflation has increased, okay. Here you can see retail inflation rose to 14-month high, hope of rate cut next month. So we will be seeing that what are the impact or what will happen after that, because when we talk about inflation, we know that RBI is the body, or you can say RBI's monetary policy committee is there, so which is keeping a note of inflation and related issues. So we'll be seeing that whether there will be a rate cut or not. So that is the article we'll be talking about, okay. Moving further, conversion of FPI to FDI. Yesterday we had talked about this FPI to FDI, but there was this another article which was there in the, you can say, newspaper today. So we will be trying to go through that article as well. Other than that, there will be some other articles for our importance with respect to the examination. So we will be discussing that, okay. Then we will be talking about or you can say we will be starting with the practice question which was given to you in the previous lecture. We will discuss that and then we will move forward with the facts of the day. Then constitution amendment. We have talked about the 42nd constitution amendment. I hope you must have revised it after class ended. And then we will be talking about the 44th constitutional amendment act today, okay. So that will be the today's agenda. So let's start our discussion. We will be starting with the practice question which was given to you in the previous lecture. Now, which of the following country had come up with the idea of happiness index? Finland, Switzerland, Bhutan or Nepal? If we talk about the origin, or you can say the idea when it was discussed first, that is basically your Bhutan, okay. Option C would be your right answer over here, okay. So we have already seen yesterday that Bhutan is also going for a new kind of city which is they are developing as GMC. You will be telling me in the comment that what is GMC, because yesterday we have discussed about it, okay. Now we will be going forward and starting with the discussion. Before that, we have GS foundation courses in offline mode and in English medium that are starting from 13th of November, that is today, at Indore center, and 26th of November at Delhi center. So you can directly visit the center or you can call us this number, that is 8010440440 for any kind of inquiry, okay. And before moving further, please subscribe the channel. Now look at the fact of the day. Recently there is this term which has been in the news, that is nano fertilizer, okay. Nano fertilizer. So these nano fertilizer are nothing but when we talk about the nano, that is small particles which are there, 10 raised to power minus 9, that is the kind of you can say scale at which you can find these nanoparticles, okay. When we are talking about nano fertilizers, so basically nanoparticles used in the fertilizers, that is basically your nanoparticles, okay. Sorry, nano fertilizer. Recently Indian scientist has developed nano coated muriate of potash, okay. We have this MOP, that is muriate of potash, which is a fertilizer which is used in the agriculture. So they have started they have actually developed nano coated muriate of potash nano fertilizer, which can enhance the nutrient use or efficiency of the fertilizers, okay. So basically to make agriculture more optimized, okay, or you can say more productive, they have come up with this idea. The coating made of the nano clay reinforced binary carbohydrates can reduce the recommended fertilizer dosage and maintain enhanced crop production, okay. Now please remember this, that is nano clay reinforced binary carbohydrates, okay. Now this is the coating which has been put on the muriate of potash to make sure that the fertilizer doses are optimum, okay. We do not go for the excess use of fertilizer. If we are going for the excess use of fertilizer, there can be two, you can say, disadvantages. One is the yield might not get improved, and second thing is there is a chances of eutrophication, okay. So that is the thing. Now coming to the next one here, it is mechanically stable, biodegradable and hydrophobic. Okay, if hydrophilic is, that means that is water loving, and hydrophobic is that someone who is water repellent. Okay, which can enhance NUE, that is basically your nutrient use efficiency, by slowing down the, you can say, release in the soil. Okay, since there is a coating that will make sure that the muriate of potash is penetrating into the soil at a slower pace. Okay, moving further, NU is the efficiency of a plant in using applied or mixed nitrogen for biomass production. So basically they are talking about, you can say, this nutrient use efficiency, that how efficient that use might be, or you can say whatever kind of nutrients you are giving to the, you can say, plants etc., how they are using it. So it is the efficiency of a plant in using the applied or fixed nitrogen for biomass production. Okay, biomass production, that means that when we are talking about the plant growth, that is biomass production only. Okay, and they are saying that fixed nitrogen in the, you can say, atmosphere is found in a different form, and for these plants to use them, so you have to go for the nitrogen fixation. Okay, so that is there. These nanomaterial enable controlled release of the nutrients into the soil, optimizing the nutrient availability to the plant over a longer period of time. Okay, so that is about your nano fertilizer, and specifically speaking, there is a coating of nano clay reinforced binary carbohydrates. Okay, and that has been used for the used in the muriate of potash. They have gone for the nano coating of that. Okay, I hope that is clear. Now we can move further to the next one, that is your constitutional amendments. Okay, now here we are talking about the 44th constitutional amendment. We have seen that 42nd constitutional amendment, that is basically called as mini constitution. Okay, and there are certain constitution amendments which are more important than others. Okay, like 24th, 25th, then we have 42nd, 44th, 73rd, 74th. These are certain, you can say, amendments which are more important than any other amendments. Okay, so let's see. Gave constitutional protection to the publication of a newspaper, publication in a newspaper of the true reports of the proceedings of parliament and the state legislature. Okay, now this is the constitutional protection which has been given to the publication of reports into the newspaper. Now if there is a true report, then you can go for the publication. Okay, so that is there, that is basically related to your freedom of speech and expression. Okay, so that was there. Now why is that you are not supposed to you publish these reports earlier? Because that was part of your privileges. Okay, privileges are given in article 105, but these are not defined, or you can say these are not enlisted. Okay, these privileges are based on the conventions. Okay, now let's move further. Empower the president to send back once the advice of the cabinet for the reconsideration, but the reconsidered advice would be binding on the president. Earlier, as I told you, in the 42nd amendment, it was said that the aid and advice of council of minister or the cabinet will be, you can say, binding on the president. That was said. Now in 44th, what they have said, that president can send it once for the reconsideration. Once the reconsidered advice is coming back to the president, president has to follow it, or you can say he has to be bound by it. He cannot, you can say, go against that. Okay, now what if they do not reconsider it, they are sending it the same as earlier? So even in that case also, president has to give the assent, president has to follow that particular advice. Okay, so that is there. Now moving further, restore some of the powers of the Supreme Court and High Court, which is there. Replace the term internal disturbances by armed rebellion in respect of the national emergency. Okay, so when we talk about national emergency, there were terms like war, external aggression, and earlier there was that internal disturbance. If there is these three situations which are there, okay, you can go for the national emergency. President can go for the proclamation of the national emergency. But with the 44th Amendment Act, what they did, that they have replaced this internal disturbance with the armed rebellion. Okay, so that is there, which has been done in the 44th Amendment Act. Made the president to declare national emergency only in the written recommendation, only on the basis of the written recommendation of the cabinet. Sorry, everywhere else you will see that they want you can say aid and advice of the council of minister or the cabinet. Okay, but here they will be acting upon the written advice of the cabinet only. Okay, so that advice should be written, recommendation of the cabinet should be there. Okay, so that is something which is added in the 44th amendment. Deleted the right to property from the list of fundamental rights and made it only a legal right. Okay, so that is something you must know, that they have actually deleted it from the article 31 and then they have moved it to the article 300A, I guess. Okay, if I'm wrong you can correct me in the comment box. Okay, but they have made it a constitutional legal right, okay, and not a fundamental right. Fundamental rights are those rights which are there in the part 3 of the constitution. Okay, these are the fundamental rights. If there is a right which is outside this part 3, then it becomes a constitutional right. Okay, and constitutional rights are basically a legal right because there is a legal statute which is providing for that. Okay, so that is about the right to property which has been deleted, provided the fundamental rights guaranteed by the article 20 and 21 cannot be suspended during the national emergency. So most of the changes with respect to the national emergency were brought through the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. Omitted the provisions which took away the power of court to decide on the election dispute of the president and the vice president and the prime minister and speaker of the Lok Sabha. So basically here they have given, you can say, omitted the provision which took away the power. There was this when we are talking about the amendment, there was this provision which has said that you can say Supreme Court will not have any say in the elections of the following person, but that was omitted. Okay, so that is about your 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. Now moving further and starting with the today's discussion, we will be starting with the COP29. Okay, now COP29 right now it is happening in Baku. Baku is the basically capital of Azerbaijan. Okay, so here we are going for the COP29. Before that there are 28 COPs which has happened. Okay, and this is under the UNFCCC framework. Okay, that is your UN framework convention on climate change. Okay, so that is basically your UNFCCC. You know that we had a Earth Summit which has happened, and in 1992 there was this summit, sorry 1992, and with that there are certain institutions which were there are certain conventions which came out of the result of the 1992 summit, and one of them was your UNFCCC. There was UNCBD, all these things were there, Convention of Biodiversity, and UNCCD was also there. So these conventions were there. Okay, under this convention we are having this conference of parties. Now let's see. There are nearly 200 countries, business leaders, scientists, indigenous people, journalists, and the various stakeholders which will be attending the conference. It will continue till November 2022. Primary goal of conference is to bring together the countries to develop the shared plan to curb the global warming. Okay, ultimate aim is to stop the warming at 1.5 degree Celsius temperature change. The target is to keep it below than the 2 degrees Celsius, but preferably 1.5 degrees Celsius from the pre-industrial level. Okay, so this is the target. Similarly, that is why that is there, because the global warming is harmful and we are trying to stop the global warming. So they are bringing the countries together to, you can say, reduce the effects of the global warming. So that is there. Now ways to scale up the climate financing. There are two things which are right now of prominence. One is to make sure that we are sticking to the commitments which we have made, or the targets which we have given ourselves. Second thing is the financing. Financing means that to make sure that we achieve this target, there are a lot of things a country has to do, being a developing countries. So there are they are in the dearth of the finance, they are not having the kind of technology which is required. For that, the developed countries has to help them. Okay, and that is why there is this climate financing which is right now in is a hot topic, because we are not able to gather the kind of funds which is required for sticking us to these you can say contribution. Okay, now Conference of Parties is an annual meeting of the members of UNFCCC at international agreement signed in the 1992, which we have already seen. Now talking about this particular UNFCCC, so that is committed to basically act together to stabilize the greenhouse gas concentrations at the level which would prevent the dangerous anthropogenic human induced interference with the climate change. So basically what they are trying to do is that they are trying to make sure that whatever human activities are there that do not you can say speed up the pace of climate change. Okay, so that is the you can say their objective. with respect to the UNFCCC. Now there are 198 parties which are there in the UNFCCC, 197 countries are there, and another party is your European Union. Okay. Now coming to the what were the various COPs and achievements so far till now, what are the achievements which has been there. Okay. So when we talk about the 1997, there was this Kyoto Protocol, COP 3, Kyoto 1997. They have come up with the Kyoto Protocol. Now the basically the objective of Kyoto Protocol to make sure that we are reducing the you can say emissions. Okay, so here you can say placed obligation on the rich and the industrialized countries to cut their greenhouse gas emissions by assigned amounts. Okay, so they have actually assigned amount to various countries. For different countries there are different targets which has been given, but on average you can say 4.2% reduction was you can say expected from these countries below the 1990 levels by the year of 2012. Okay, 2012 we can say the target, or you can say the target of the Kyoto Protocol or the deadlines of the Kyoto Protocol was 2012, and they have said that nearly 4.2% reduction should be there in the emissions, but that has not happened because the countries like USA has not signed. USA is the most powerful country and they are responsible for the lot of emissions, but they did not you can say ratify this particular convention, this particular protocol. They have signed it but they did not ratify it. Okay, so that is the one thing, that is one of the important COP which has happened, that is Kyoto Protocol. After that, if we are talking about the second one over here, so that is the second attempt which was made in 2015, that was your Paris Climate Agreement. Okay, so basically this was COP 21, COP second, and then COP third and the COP 21. Now why? After 2012, when we have seen that we did not achieve the targets which were given in the third, that is Kyoto Protocol, so basically they have come up with the Paris Agreement, wherein they have actually talked about different goals over here. So let's see. It is a legally binding international treaty to limit the global temperature below 2 degrees Celsius and preferably below 1.5 degrees Celsius. So which target we have already talked about, that they wanted to limit the global temperature change to below 2 degree Celsius or preferably below 1.5 degree. That we will try to achieve this goal, but if not, then at least this one. Okay, so that was there, and for that you will require a lot of you can say determination. You have to require a lot of efforts from different countries. So different countries has come up with the nationally determined contributions, that is NDCs. Okay, now that has been self declared by the countries in the by 2020. Then moving further, then there was this COP 26 in the Glasgow 2021, that actually for the first time they have gone for the directly hitting the coal. They have said that phasing down the use of the coal, though the you can say intensity was lowered, but the thing is they have talked about the phasing down of the coal. This is the first time you can say any conference of parties has mentioned phasing down of the coal. Okay, so that is there. And in the last year's COP 2028, that is your Dubai's COP which has happened, we have come up with the loss and damage fund. Loss and damage fund is basically for those countries who are hit by the disasters. Okay, so climate disasters, if there is a country or islands which are hit by the climate disasters, so we have loss and the damage fund which is there. So these are few important COPs which we have discussed over here. One was your COP 3, which was your Kyoto Protocol. We have talked about COP 21, that is basically your Paris Climate Change Agreement. Okay, this is Kyoto. After that, we have talked about the Glasgow, that is COP 26, that is Glasgow. Okay, and then there was this COP 28, that is loss and damage fund which was there. Okay, so this is about the COP overview. Here when we talk about the what are the expectation from this particular COP, so obviously we are not even near to achieve the goal of the climate financing. We wanted to you can say build a fund of you can say nearly $100 billion, but that is not even you can say we are not even near to that. So considering that, right now the concern is your climate financing, and here they have talked about they will be talking about the climate financing. And second thing is the new collective quantified goal. we have earlier we had the NDCs, now they will be coming up with a new collective quantifiable goal and a new amount that must be mobilized by the developed countries every year from 2025 onwards to finance the climate action in developing countries. The new figure has to be more than the 100 billion US dollar mark which was set earlier. Okay, so that is there, and there is not much progress as of now, but let's see how it happens. Please remember this new collective quantifiable goal, that is NCQZ. Okay, and make sure that that is related to your climate financing and you know that what is this about. Okay, whatever we have discussed, I have written it over here for you. You can say in a summarized form, so you can go through this. Okay, now we can move further to the next article, that is basically, oh, one more thing here, criticism of the COP. So our target is to limit the warming 1.5 degree to 2 degrees Celsius, but warming is still continuing. We are still going for the emissions. The climate finance promise of 100 billion annually from developed nations, that is not even been fully realized. So that is also there, which we have already discussed. And what are the expectations, which we have already seen, that is your a new financial goal, that is NCQZ. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Now we can move further to the next one, that is retail inflation. In this article there are certain things which has been talked about, but you don't have to remember all of these things because this data will keep on changing. But right now, to understand the trend, just know few things which I'll be telling you in the next slide. Okay, now rural and the, hold on, we'll be starting with the that is your retail inflation surge. Okay, when we talk about the retail inflation in India, that has rose to 6.21%. okay, right now if we talk about the MPC, Monetary Policy Committee, the target of Monetary Policy Committee is 4% inflation plus minus 2%. okay, so basically from 2% to 6% is the bracket in which they can afford the inflation. Okay, right now it is 6.21, that is retail inflation we are talking about, that has rose in October 2023, that is the 14th month high, primarily due to the rising food prices. Okay, there are two things which are volatile in the inflation basket which we have. Okay, so basically we have CPI, under which we will be considering the inflation. So under this basket there are various products which are there, and it includes the food and your fuel. Now these are one of the volatile elements which are there in the food basket, or you can say inflation basket. Okay, so if there is a change in the food prices, inflation will change. If there is a change in the fuel prices, inflation will change. And food and fuel prices are, you can say, dependent on various factors. When we talk about food, it depends on the monsoon, it depends on the seasons. When we talk about the fuel depends on the geopolitics and other import and export related issues. Okay, so ultimately these two prices are volatile prices. Okay, so when we talk about the core inflation, we remove these two, you can say, things out of the basket. Okay, so anyways, so that is one thing. Because of the food prices, retail inflation is been rising. Food inflation spiked. Food inflation hit 10.87, the highest in 15 months, driven by the rising cost of vegetable, fruits and the edibles. Rate cut hopes dims. Basically, if inflation is increasing, that means that market already has some kind of money which is there, and we want to make sure that inflation should be, you can say, less. And if we supply more money in the market, that means that inflation will increase more. So that is why there are chances that the Monetary Policy Committee in the next meeting, they will not go for the rate cuts. They will either keep it the same or they will go for the increase. Okay, mostly they will keeping it the same. Okay, so we will not be going for the any kind of rate cuts in the next cycle. Okay, core inflation increases. The core inflation is basically the inflation when we are taking out the food and fuel. Okay, excluding food and fuel, reached 3.67, though no doubt this is still under the bracket, but still it is increasing. That is what we are trying to say, influenced by the telecom tariff hike and the hike in the gold prices. We have talked about the gold prices because of the US Fed Reserve, etc. So that is there. Urban and the rural inflation, so here you can say that is also increasing, that is 6.68% in the rural areas and 5.52% in the urban areas. You don't have to worry about that. Industrial production growth, if we talk about, so yes, we have seen a positive sign over there. There is the, you can say, growth in the industrial sector. Here industrial production grew by 3.1% in September, boosted by the manufacturing, mining and the electricity sectors. Okay, consumer demand is also rising, so that is also a positive sign. So you know, apart from the consumer demand and the industrial production, we are seeing that yes, inflation is still rising, but still there are some positives which are there. Okay, cautious economic outlook. While the demand appears to be positive, global food prices and the seasonal factors contribute to the cautious outlook. Okay, so that is there. There is a graph which is given that is talking about the CPI. This is your CPI. Okay, so here you can see from this particular part 3.6 to 6.21, so that is a rise which we have seen over here. Okay, I hope that is clear. So this is about the inflation situation in the country right now. Okay, that is all you should remember from this article. Okay, now moving further to the next one, conversion of the excess FPI stakes as FDI. Okay, you know that there is a cap which has been put by the government with respect to the FPIs. Okay, so that is your 10% of the paid up capital. If some foreign entity, let's say a citizen or a company which is buying stakes, okay, of a company, and that is more than, let's say, 10%, let's say it is 12 or 15%. Okay, in that case these 2% has to be converted into the FDI. Okay, so that is there. Now where you can convert it, only in the cases where FDI in from the foreign countries is allowed, or the from the foreign elements is allowed. Okay, there are certain sectors wherein FDI is not allowed by the foreign institutions or the you can say entities. In that areas we will not go for the conversion, we will go for the divestition. Okay, so basically you have to take out these 2% of the investment from the portfolio. Okay, so let's see over here, Reserve Bank of India and the Security and Exchange Board of India, that is SEBI and RBI, allowed FPI to classify equity stakes in excess of the 10% in Indian companies as foreign direct investment, paving the way for the smoother and the greater flow of the foreign investment. Now why we are doing this? Right now India is facing an outflow of FPIs. We are seeing that FPIs are going out. If you are saying that you cannot invest 12%, more than 10%, what will happen is that you will ask that particular person to go for the divestition. Okay, so you can say, you will say that you have to divest, or you can say take out 2%. So in that case there might be a chance that he will not take just 2%, he might go for the 12% altogether. He will be saying that he will invest all the money in one place. Okay, so that can be a negative, that can have a negative impact on the FPIs. So considering that, what Reserve Bank has decided that whatever excess amount is there, that can be invested as FDI. Okay, so that is there. So that is the positive outlook, or you can say ease of doing the business over here. Now latest RBI directives, the directed FPI to obtain necessary approval from the government and the concurrence from the investee company when equity holdings goes beyond the prescribed limit, they are they reclassified holdings as FPI. Okay, two things are there. One, to reclassify this you have to get a government's permission or the government's approval. Second thing is you have to get a concurrence from the company in which you are investing. Okay, and that is to make sure that, one thing is that whenever there is a sectoral cap or there is a sectoral restrictions which are there, so that company can tell them, company can know that there are restrictions and we cannot go for the FDI in that particular area. Okay, for that you need to have the concurrence of the company. Now foreign exchange management non-debt instrument rules 2019, that is saying that FPI should be less than 10% of the total paid up capital on the fully diluted basis, breach of the prescribed limit, option of divesting, and the you can say reclassifying it as FDI. These are the two options which are available. Either you take your money out or you can classify it as a FDI. Okay, within 5 trading days from the date of the settlement. Let's say this 2%, let's say the person has invested in 3 or 4 installments. Okay, 3%, 3%, 3% and 3%. Now these three are adding up to 9%, and now this is the third one, last one, which is basically keeping it, making it 12%. So it is the investment which is breaching the prescribed limits. So that means that from the date of this particular investment you have 5 days to either divest it, or you can say you can go for the reclassification as the FDI. Okay, approval needed, as I told you, there are two kind of approvals. One is from the government, you have to take the approval. Second is concurrence of the company. Okay, necessary approvals from the government, including the approval required in the case of investment from the land bordering countries. Okay, investment should be adherent to the entry route, sectoral caps, investment limit, pricing guidelines, and the other attendant conditions for the FDI. So whatever FDI rules are there, you have to follow those rules. Okay, then only you can reclassify that. Okay, now FPI should have concurrence of the Indian investee company. Concern for the reclassification of the investment to FDI enables such company to ensure compliance with the condition pertaining to the sectors prohibiting FDI and the sectoral caps, which we have already seen that wherever there is a sectoral cap, so the company must have an idea about it. If you are going for the reclassification in the sector where is FDI is not allowed, so company has to tell them we cannot take FDI in that particular arena. Okay, Now moving further, impact on the FBI flows, it will allow the FPI to invest in a company beyond 10% limit. So that is one thing, that you are allowing a particular foreign entity to invest in a company of his choice more than 10%. 10% will be your FPI, and whatever excess is there, that will be considered as FDI. Okay, so that is there. It will benefit Indian companies as it becomes easier to attract more foreign investments. So that's there. FPI and FDI we have already discussed yesterday. So FDI is kind of a long term wherein ownership is also concerned. Okay, FPI, there is no third person involved or the third institution involved over here. When we talk about the FPI, this is the short term investment which is there with respect to the foreign countries. And second thing is that this is having a third party or the third person which is between them, that is basically your financial institution, or you can say that is basically your stock exchanges. Okay, so that is FPI and FDI. In FDI you will be seeing that a person will be buying an enterprise. Okay, so there might be an association with the physical assets, but when we talk about the FPI, there will be no association of the physical assets. That is basically related to financial instruments only. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Now we can move further to the next article. Open to lift import tariffs if local industry is not hurt. With respect to the India and USA equation and the other countries as well. So our finance minister has said that they are open to reduce the tariff, but only in the sectors where local industry is not getting harmed. Okay, here India is willing to lift or ease the import tariffs on the certain goods if it does not hurt local manufacturers. Manufacturing capacity, says the finance minister. Okay, government's thinking on the how to deal with the US threat. Okay, USA is saying that they will be going for the increase in the import tariff, so that you can say the balance of trade will be in their favor. Okay, so that is there. Donald Trump has these policies, America first, etc., wherein he has this he has always gone for the increasing the tariffs. Okay, so India might be there in that particular list as well. Intermediate goods are required to be imported. Now there are certain goods which are required to be imported for our manufacturing industry, on which our exports are also based. Okay, so basically for that we have to pay the, you can say, import tariffs, etc., which are there. So lift the tariff on them, provided it does not have intended or unintended consequences for the country's own manufacturing capacity. Okay, let's say we are talking about APIs over here. Okay, now APIs are having, we are putting a tariff which is there on API, and that is increasing the cost. Let's say a country which is selling you API at 100 rupees per unit or something like that. Okay, but we are having a tariff that is of, let's say, 30%. So we are adding to the cost, and the domestic manufacturer is getting the APIs at 130 rupees. Okay, now that is increasing the cost. Ultimately what will happen is that the manufacturing cost will increase and export will be harmed. Okay, so considering that, if the government of India reduced this particular import duty, okay, so that will benefit the exporters. Okay, but the thing is that can also lead to the balance of trade crisis, because obviously not crisis, you can say that balance of trade, or the, let's say in China, if we are talking about the API, we are dealing with APIs with the China, and China is having a trade surplus, a lot of trade surplus they are having. Okay, so we have to make sure that we import less and less from China. Okay, so that is why we put higher tariffs, but on the goods which are important for our manufacturing sector, we have to go for the reduction in the, you can say, tariffs over here. Let's see, response to the US. India is considering move as the US with respect to the US president, that is Donald Trump, threatens the tariffs on the foreign goods. He has said that he will be increasing the tariffs on the foreign goods. Why? Because they are asking for more market access. Okay, and that is why India is saying that we will reduce the tariffs so that there will be more market access which will be given to the countries like USA, so that they will not go for such harsh actions. Okay. Second thing is that they have said that there is one condition, that our manufacturer or our domestic industry is not getting harmed. Condition for lifting the tariffs on the intermediate goods might be eased if the local industry is protected. Then balancing trade needs, India aims to support local manufacturers while also improving the access to the foreign markets. Okay, so these are certain things. Other than that, also US tariffs comparisons, as I told you. So right now if we talk about, so these tariffs are less, but after the Trump's administration, you will be seeing that these tariffs will get you can say increased. The US has low tariffs, that is 2% average on the industrial goods, but they may impose higher tariffs on the Indian products like textile and pharma industry. Then supporting local industry, as I told you that we do not want our local industry to get harmed. Criticism of the US label, the US calls India, that is tariff king. Okay, most of the time you will be seeing that USA will say India as a, USA will see India as a tariff king because our import duties are high. Okay, so that is one thing that we do not actually appreciate from USA sides, because our conditions are like that. Okay, upcoming meeting is there with respect to the finance minister and the, you can say, finance minister of the state. So they will decide on, or they will discuss the issue over there as well. Okay, so that is about the you can say recent comment which was made by the finance minister with respect to the tariffs in India. Now there is this study which has said that there are possibilities that Mars has the oceans, okay, 4 point nearly, you can say 3.42 billion years ago, there was these oceans which were there on the Mars. Okay, how they realized that? There are certain pictures which has been taken of the terrain, and they have said that. So let's see. China's Zhurong rover gathered fresh evidence that Mars was home to the oceans billion years ago, landed on the northern lowland of the Mars in 2021. So there was this you can say rover, that is Zhurong. Okay, so that is there. It is China's, and in 2021 it landed on the surface of the Mars. Okay, now let's see. Indicated the presence of the geological features indicative of the ancient coastline. The rover analyzed the rock on the Martian surface in a location called Utopia Planitia. Okay, this particular name you can remember, Utopia Planitia. Okay, it is a location, or it is a large plain in the planet's northern hemisphere. Okay, so please remember that this is some plains which are located on Mars in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so just that. So researchers have said that data from the China's Tianwen-1 orbiter, NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and the robotic six-wheeled rover indicate that the existence of water ocean during the period when Mars might already have become cold and dry, that lost much of its atmosphere. Okay, so at that point of time when Mars was losing its atmosphere, at that point of time there might be a possibility that it had an ocean. Depending on the data which has been gathered from various explorations, they have actually come to this conclusion. Okay, they described surface features such as troughs, sediment channels, and the mud volcanoes which are present over there on the coastline. So basically they have said that there are chances that there can be a ocean. Okay, other than that, here you can see this is the timeline they are talking about, that 3.68 billion years ago. When we talk about the, you can say, origin of the solar system, that was somewhere around 4.5 billion years ago, and at that point of time Mars might have been born, and 3.68 billion years ago we might have an ocean on the Mars. Okay, so that is there. Yet significant uncertainty remains. These findings not only provide further evidence to support the theory of Martian ocean, but also presents for the first time. Okay, so basically there was this theory which is suggesting that there would have been an ocean on the Martian surface. Okay, I hope that is clear. Now we can move further. For your own reach, there is this article, Rare Manuscripts to 9th Century Bronze Sculpture Exhibition Traces Hindi's Expanse. Okay, so basically there are certain facts which has been written over here with respect to the Devanagari and the Kangra paintings. So you can go through that. That can be important for your art and cultures point of view. In the end, we have this practice question for you. Where is the COP29 climate conference being held in 2024? Paris, France; Baku, Azerbaijan; Glasgow, United Kingdom; New Delhi, India. Okay, so you have to attend this question and answer to me in the comment box. With that, I would like to take your leave, and if you have not subscribed the channel, please subscribe it. Have a nice day. Thank you.